Our series begins with our hero, Yamada, a second-year high school student who is somewhat shy but very competitive. He has a best friend named Akane who plays a lot of jokes on him, so he decides to get revenge by putting a spring in her pencil case and then giving it to her to scare her. However, before he can do so, she asks him to help her open her pencil case, and, acting all innocent, he agrees. But when he does, thousands of papers fly out, and, scared, Yamada lets out a scream, causing the teacher to scold him. Minutes later, Akane comments that when they were in elementary school, they used to write the name of the person they liked on their erasers, and asks him if he still does it. He replies that he doesn't, because it seems childish to him, and no one likes him anyway. She tells him that she doesn't think the same, and then asks for permission to go to the bathroom. Yamada takes advantage of this to take Akane's eraser and play a joke on her. However, he notices that there is something written on it, and, curiously, he doesn't read it. Instead, he just says, "Look towards the hallway." As he does, he sees Akane making fun of him. Yamada tells her that one day he will make a joke and be able to laugh at her, but Akane tells him she doubts it because he already lost a great opportunity. Later, in art class, Akane has to draw Yamada, who gets nervous because she keeps looking at him so much. Then, it's Yamada's turn to draw Akane, who smiles sweetly at him, causing him to get distracted and quickly put his pencil away. She picks it up and whispers to him, "You and I have been looking at each other non-stop," to which, somewhat startled, he responds, but only to draw Naruto. After school, Yamada tells Akane that the other day he ran so much that he ended up at the beach. Since she doesn't believe him, he decides to run there and send her a photo. However, to his surprise, Akane arrives at the place and gives him a bottle of water, something he appreciates. Then she teases him, saying that they look like they're in love, watching the sunset. This makes Yamada blush, so Akane tells him that he turned red, and embarrassed, he tells her that it's because of the sun. Then, Akane offers to take him on her bike, but he gently declines her invitation. When she comments that the other day a strong boy took her on a bike, he quickly offers to take her, which makes her happy. Later that night, Akane checks her eraser, and we see that Yamada's name is written there. The next day, Yamada sees Akane on her bike and asks about it, to which Akane replies that she left it at her house because she wanted to go to school with him, holding hands. This excites Yamada until, laughing, she asks him if he really believed it, and he quickly denies it. On the way, she tells him to try to guess why she didn't bring her bike. He replies that surely it was because the brakes broke. However, she answers that this was not the reason, and here we find out that the correct answer had already been told to him. At recess, Akane sees Yamada lose several times in a strength competition, so she decides to challenge him by taking his hand. She gets nervous and is about to say something but gives up, and the competition begins. Yamada is about to win when Akane tells him that in the end they will hold hands. Surprised, he gets distracted and loses the competition. Yamada then decides to play a joke on Akane, so he practices funny faces to make her laugh in the middle of class and gets scolded. However, it does not work, because when he sees it, the teacher scolds him. To cheer him up, Akane makes a funny face, but he laughs so hard that it interrupts the class. As punishment, the teacher orders him to clean the library. Angrily, he obeys, but back in the classroom, he gets scared when he sees Akane come out of a closet. There, she offers to help him, and they both clean together. While doing so, they see Nakai and Mano, who are in love, so Akane comments that it must be nice to live a young love. The next day, the teacher appoints Akane and Yamada as receptionists of the library. There, Akane proposes that they read books, but each one chooses a book for the other. Since she had seen him interested in a book about dinosaurs, she chooses that one, while he chooses a book at random. While they read, Yamada observes Akane and can't help but think about how pretty she looks. Just then, she says, "I fell in love. I am in love with those sincere eyes and the heart of a young boy." Hearing this, Yamada's heart races until Akane looks at the book and tells him that he was just reading out loud. The truth, however, was that she had invented everything she read. Later, Yamada goes to buy a new comic of his favorite anime, and when he leaves, he begins to sing a song from the series. Suddenly, he meets Akane and jumps in fright. She tells him that he is singing the song wrong, but he doesn't believe her, so she suggests listening to the song again and lends him her headphones. However, the closeness makes Yamada's heart beat faster, and he can't concentrate on the song, so he closes his eyes. When Akane speaks to him, he opens them and is startled to see her face so close. Since he couldn't hear the chorus, he puts his headphones back on and realizes that Akane was right. After spending a fun afternoon together, they both return to their homes. The next day at the library, Yamada sees Akane knitting. She offers to teach him, and, seeing that he is not doing well, she takes his hands to explain better. Nervous, he decides to continue reading. Then, he asks her what she is knitting, and she tells him that she is knitting a scarf for a 15-year-old boy. Upon hearing this, he can't avoid feeling jealous until she shows him a picture of a 15-year-old puppy, and Yamada feels relieved. On the way out, he proposes a competition to Akane because he wants to beat her at least once. However, nothing comes to mind, so she suggests that whoever makes the other happiest will win. At first, Yamada decides to pretend not to be happy in order to fool Akane. However, when they meet and she gives him a gift, he gets very happy. Then she gives him a bag with all his favorite things, which makes him even happier, so they both end up in a tie. Days later, the new year arrives, and Yamada goes to a temple, where he makes a wish that Akane won't play jokes on him that year. There, he meets her, and they both try to guess what the other wished for. Then they buy a fortune game with random papers. In the middle of it, she receives a call from her parents, so she has to leave. Yamada tells her that next year he will beat her in the fortune game. Upon hearing this, she asks him if he is inviting her to come together next year. Shyly, he answers that he would like to. She happily responds that in that case, her wish came true because she had wished that he would ask her out. Happy, they say goodbye. Months go by, and Valentine's Day arrives. As is customary for girls to give chocolates to the boy they like, Yamada gets excited because he thinks that Akane will give him chocolates. Now, in singing class, they all practice a song using mirrors, so Akane uses it to observe Yamada. However, she is not the only one he can't take his eyes off her either. On the way out, Yamada loses hope of receiving chocolate until he finds one that she had left in his locker. He is very happy. However, not all is joyful, as Akane's father tells her that, due to his job, they will have to move to Paris at the end of March. The next day, Yamada and Akane go to school together. When he sneezes, she worriedly touches his forehead to see if he has a fever. At school, Yamada meets Nakai, who tells him that he was very surprised when he found out Akane would be moving. Yamada asks him how he found out, to which Nakai replies that almost the entire class already knows. Later, all the students present their song in the auditorium, and then Yamada and Akane are sent to carry the chairs back to Kamino's classroom. There, they see a boy giving the second button of his uniform to a girl, which is a way for a boy to confess to a girl he likes. In class, she tells him that she will be moving with her family to Paris at the end of March. Upon hearing that she will be going so far away, Yamada becomes sad and gets distracted in class. When he sees that she doesn't have a book, Akane offers to share his with her. Although he did bring a book, he accepts so they can sit together. At the exit, it starts to rain, but since Akane didn't bring an umbrella, Yamada shares his and covers her as much as he can. Because of this, his shoulder gets wet, something that Akane notices as she moves closer to him. The next day, Yamada arrives at the classroom and meets Akane. He is about to say something when their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of some classmates. They say goodbye to Akane and wish her good luck on her trip, while Yamada watches her sadly. At the end of class, the teacher gives them their notes, and then they all take a photo together as a souvenir. When they leave class, Akane asks Yamada to accompany her to a mountain. When they reach the top, she tells him that people say if you come to that mountain with the person you like, you will end up together. Hearing this, Yamada blushes, and Akane asks him if he would like it better if she moved away and never played jokes on him again, or if she stayed and made jokes about him all her life. Yamada chooses the second option. Then he gives her an object, which turns out to be his second button, confessing that he likes her. This moves her deeply. Even though the separation embarrasses them both and they are about to cry, she makes a funny face to make him laugh and tells him not to be sad. Finally, Akane asks him to come back to that place one day, and Yamada accepts. The day comes when Akane must move to Paris, so she calls Yamada to say goodbye. Between jokes, they both confess to feeling lonely. Then she tells him that something embarrassing happened to her, and if he guesses it in 3 attempts, she will grant him a wish. As Yamada loses the first 2 attempts, he asks her to give him a clue. She tells him that it is something embarrassing, but that it will make him happy. Hearing this, Yamada responds that it must be a confession. However, she replies that it is not about that. But then she asks if he would be happy if she confessed that she likes him. Embarrassed, he changes the subject and asks her to tell him the answer, but she only replies that she will tell him next time. On the way to school, Yamada can't imagine that he will see Akane, and he feels sad. But his surprise is great when he sees her at school. His classmates are also surprised, and she tells Yamada that her move was delayed. She admits she felt some embarrassment coming back to school, because everyone had already said goodbye to her, but at the same time, she felt happy to be able to stay, and that was what she wanted to tell him in the morning. Hearing this, Yamada becomes happy, and thanks her for calling him. He confesses that he was going to call her too, and she jokes, saying, "That sounds like a worried boyfriend." They both smile. Already in class, Akane's eraser falls, and Yamada picks it up. She reminds him that if you write the name of the person you like on your eraser and use it up, that person will fall in love with you too. Yamada quickly checks the eraser, but finds it empty. However, Akane confesses that this is not the same eraser as last time, because she already used it. 3 months pass, and the day arrives when Akane moves abroad. Yamada goes to the port to say goodbye to her, and when he sees her leave, he calls out her name until the ship disappears into the horizon. 10 years pass, and now Yamada and Akane are 25 years old. We find out that during all this time, they stayed in communication, and that Yamada returned to Japan, but not to the city where he lived. Instead, he moved to Tokyo to attend college. Yamada eventually became a physical education teacher, and now works alongside Nakai, who is also a teacher and about to marry Mano. Nakai invites Yamada to a pre-wedding meeting. When teacher Tina tells Yamada that a student teacher will be coming for 3 weeks and asks him to help her adjust to school, minutes later, Yamada notices that someone left a broom outside the closet. He approaches to fix it when suddenly, Akane comes out of the closet and scares him. He is very surprised to see her, and she tells him that she came to do a teacher internship. She then takes him to the beach, where they talk about the moments they spent together in high school. Later, they both go to the pre-wedding meeting, where Akane reunites with her former classmates and her friend Mano. Akane congratulates Mano on her marriage, and while they talk, we learn that when Akane first returned to Japan, Yamada had gone to Tokyo to visit her, but unfortunately, he couldn't see her because she was sick. After the meeting, Akane and Yamada leave together, since she was staying at an inn near his house. There, Akane asks Yamada to close his eyes, and at her insistence, he obeys. For a moment, he thinks she is going to kiss him, but then she laughs, and he realizes that she was playing a joke on him. They both say goodbye, happy to be together again. The next day, Akane begins teaching her drawing classes at school. When a student asks her to also make a drawing, Akane asks Yamada to be her model. Just like old times, the next day, some students tell Yamada that 2 classmates are dating and showing affection in public. He goes out to check if this is true and is amazed to see them kissing. Akane jokes, saying that they are like them when they were in school, to which a dismayed Yamada responds that they never kissed. After giving a warning to the students, Yamada and Akane talk, and she asks him if he's ever gone on a date. He replies no, and says that he wouldn't do it now because he's a teacher, and the students could see him and make jokes about him. However, Akane replies that she wouldn't mind being made fun of if she goes out with the person she likes and with whom she plans to be until she is a grandmother. Hearing this, he imagines her as a grandmother and living by her side. When Akane asks him if he would kiss someone on the street, embarrassed, he replies that he wouldn't do that in public, but only when they were alone. Smiling, Akane tells him that they are alone now, which makes him nervous, and she laughs. The day of Nakai's wedding arrives, where Akane ends up catching the bouquet. Seeing her happy, Yamada imagines her in a wedding dress. Minutes later, Nakai tells Yamada that he should marry Akane, to which he replies that Akane and he are not in a relationship, so Nakai advises him to hurry before Akane returns to France and falls in love with a Frenchman. This leaves Yamada deep in thought as he watches Akane, and both exchange sweet glances. Suddenly, a boy passes by and accidentally throws Akane's bouquet into the pool. This makes her so sad that without thinking, Yamada jumps into the pool to retrieve it. So moved, Akane also jumps into the pool to receive it and thanks him. Minutes later, they both change clothes, and on the way, Yamada decides to ask Akane if she has someone, but she gets ahead of him and asks if he has a girlfriend. He answers no, and she tells him that she doesn't either. Without waiting any longer, Yamada asks her if she wants to go to the fireworks festival with him, and happily, she accepts. The days go by, and the day of the festival arrives, where Yamada is enthralled to see Akane in a kimono. He invites her to eat ice cream, and then they both sit down to watch the fireworks. Happy, she thanks him for inviting her and tells him that she will remember that moment forever. Hearing this, he is about to confess his feelings until he remembers that she will be leaving for France soon, and in the end, he gives up. The next day, Akane says goodbye to the students because she had finished her internship, and after delivering her papers, she says goodbye to the teachers. Nakai advises Yamada to confess his feelings to Akane before she leaves. The next day, Yamada thinks about this when Akane returns to school. He ends up confessing that he has liked her for 10 years and that he returned because the only place he wants to be is by her side. He asks her to be his girlfriend. Upon hearing this, Akane tells him that at Nakai's wedding, when she received the bouquet, he imagined her in a wedding dress, and when she mentioned that she would be a grandmother, he imagined living with her by her side. So, he confesses that he doesn't just want to be her boyfriend, but that he wants to spend his whole life with her and asks if she would like to marry him in the future. To this, she very happily answers yes, starting their relationship in this way. The film ends with Yamada and Akane getting married and visiting the mountain to which they had promised to return, but this time with their little daughter. And thus, the series ends. I hope that if you have reached the end, you will subscribe to the channel and support us with a like. You can also check out other series that you might enjoy. We have many beautiful ones, and I can recommend the best for you, dear viewer. Thank you, and peace.